probably also in Canada as well. Oftentimes, a lot of the jobs that individuals who identify as Latinx that they do, if they're not academically trained, are jobs that are increasingly going to be replaced by automation and by artificial intelligence technology. And so for us, we want to ensure that these individuals also have an opportunity to change their careers, right? To upskill and to transform into something more technical, whether that be doing AI itself or just having a better understanding of AI technology so that they can switch into something else and they do not just fear it as something that's coming to take over, but rather they'll be more prepared for the future and the future of work as well.
And why is it important to have groups such as yours in the conference, like the NeurIPS?
I can start. So research is a very creative field, or not field, I guess, but it's a creative environment. And you're most creative if
Could you transfer it
the
to
people you work with are diverse. And I think we've seen recently sort of a lot of the recent ideas coming out in terms of like adversarial learning, in terms of the kinds of holes that we see in our data sets because they're biased. And these things are often coming out because of underrepresented groups in research. And these are the kinds of problems that we think about because it's the kinds of things that they face. And so I think it's really important for us to be creating these kinds of affinity workshops to encourage more diversity at NeurIPS, so that there's more mixing of ideas, and so that we can have a very strong, healthy research culture.
So along those lines, I want to echo everything that you said as well. It's also very important when you come to a conference like this and you're literally in a crowd of 8,000 people, right, that you do find community, you find people that you recognize, whether that be from a cultural standpoint or even just people that look like you, that share your language, or that understand where you're coming from and what it takes to get to a conference like this. So for us specifically, we brought 60 researchers from all over the world, right? South America, Central America, the Caribbean, Spain, to come and present their work here and do oral presentations and poster presentations. And so for us, you know, we're covering their travel, their hotel accommodations, per diem, to really ensure that it's not a burden on them and that we are lowering those barriers to entry for them to come and attend. And oftentimes from South America, it is incredibly expensive to come to a conference like this in Canada or the US. And so that's part of the work that we're doing and why we think it is so important, because otherwise they wouldn't be here, right? They wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity to come and share their work, whether their work is looked at as, exceedingly good or not, which it is, of course, but they wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity to join in and take part of the conversation and have opportunities for work as well. So that's part of why it's so important for us.
Yeah, I agree with everything they said. I don't think I can add much onto that. One of the other maybe less known aspects of our work has been pushing the NeurIPS Foundation to be better about diversity and inclusion, not just with respect to our organizations, but with respect to all of the issues. A big part of that was the survey that went out when you registered for NeurIPS, and that exposed a lot of issues of the conference. There are a lot of language barriers. There are a lot of different groups that don't feel included. There are issues with prayer rooms. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I think, especially this year, we've really pushed them to acknowledge that this was a blind spot for them, and they need to work on improving the NeurIPS experience for everyone. And hopefully that'll happen in future years.
I was wondering, how can the conference help? Because right now we are all volunteer groups doing a lot of work on top of your other occupations. So how can that be maybe institutionalized by the conference so that we can give a hand in an official way?
So I know for all of the affinity groups, we're thought of as still separately from the other workshops, and I know that the other workshops at NeurIPS specifically do have certain other resources or opportunities provided to them that our groups are not, and so we're in this kind of funny place, which is something we are also addressing with the board as well. For example, we're not on their regular schedule, or our workshops are not posted in their mobile app. We go through the process of advertising, scheduling, organizing, getting sponsors, basically everything that it takes to run a conference within a conference, right? It's like meta-level conferencing happening. Which is great from an experience standpoint, but also for, as you said, people that this is not our day jobs, right? This is something that we do because it's very important to us and we feel is very valuable to our communities. It's a labor of love, and so for the conference to recognize us at the same level as other academic workshops taking place, and to understand the amount of work that it takes for us to also do this to ensure people like us do have a seat at the table, that is incredibly valuable.
So I totally agree that I think that NeurIPS should be giving us a lot more support, that we should be in the booklet, that we should be advertised, and we, like you say, having the conference within a conference, there's a lot of duplicate work that we're doing not as our main jobs, because we all do research, but as things that we do in our spare time, and it's not sustainable, right? Like WiML only has its organizers do this workshop once, and then it's a different set of organizers every single year, which if you think about it is a little bit also kind of wasteful, because then each year we can figure out how to do it all over again. But it's so much work that like you just don't want to do this after 1 year. Even though it's so rewarding, it's so worth it to have this happen every single year. But I will say, one of the things that I worry about with affinity workshops is I don't want to silo people into these affinity groups and not have them sort of pushed to the front and center. It's like, and for them to have to choose between presenting their work at an affinity workshop and presenting their work at a NeurIPS workshop. And so I think it's really important to figure out how we can get more support from NeurIPS, while also making sure that we are not taking away opportunity from these people.
Yeah, the affinity groups were the best we could do given the situation. The affinity group model, is not perfect. There are a lot of groups that do not feel welcome here, that are discriminating against here, that are not represented by any specific affinity group. And I hope that we can really push the NeurIPS Foundation to recognize this and have a centralized and comprehensive approach to diversity for everyone. As I said, I think we've done a great job of doing that this year.
So you were talking about, of course, the work that you do is very necessary in a way. How do you, and I like that you're finishing on that subject, because we need the majority to be allies, and to be able to actually move to move the needle forward. And for example, a colleague of mine is here. She organized a women leadership event on Monday night, and there were 3 guys. Is there something that people who are either more feminist or people who are willing to help do something to bring more people to be more familiarized with the subject? Because of course, there are the assholes. There's a bunch of people who are assholes, like the Trump of the world and stuff like that. That you can't change. Or you'll waste a lot of your time. But there is a portion, probably 80% of people that just don't care, or they don't know that there is, they don't know that much that there is an issue. And those are people that you can maybe transform to make them allies. Do you see a way, or have you experienced something to make that happen?
Yeah, so I'd say the number one thing is attend the workshops. Obviously Saturday is a busy, exciting day. I don't expect you to attend all of it, but just come by for a little bit, see what's being discussed, talk to some of the people. I think ours are tomorrow. These are going to go on for probably a very long time. So there'll be more opportunities. So attend a workshop and talk to the people.
I definitely want to add to that. So being a good ally means like also speaking up for other people. So you definitely attend the workshops. If you can't attend the whole thing, I would highly recommend attending the poster sessions because there's going to be a lot of really amazing work there. You get to ask them questions about their work. You know, like tweet about them and their work. Like post on Facebook about them and just sort of like highlight marginalized people's work.
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar. I wanted to echo that. You know, there are a lot of people that are very well known within AI and machine learning that get a lot of press. You know, they're almost like rock star status at this point. But oftentimes the people that are overlooked, that are doing really amazing work, are people that you know, aren't from the major well-known universities or aren't working at the large tech companies like Google and Facebook and so on. So if you do find research that you appreciate that comes from another country, that comes from a less well-known university or startup, like share it out there in your networks, like help those people gain recognition and notoriety. Because they might not necessarily get that otherwise, and that is a really good way to be an ally for, you know, really anyone from any other culture. And if you find also work that's done in a different language, if you could help translate it, that's part of the work we're trying to do as well with the LatinXinAI Coalition, is translating between English and Spanish and Portuguese, so that people understand, okay, well, you know, what is this information, what is this work that is being done, and I would hope that, you know, if you're from another country and you speak a different language as well, that you could do that for that group and help to connect the dots. Because I think similarly, a lot of similar research is being done in many different places, but those communities might not know about it because they're not connected, and people aren't necessarily putting it out there in the world in a way that helps them associate those ideas or that knowledge. So if we can help as a larger community help them connect the dots, I think that would be really wonderful as well.
And thank you for your answers. More specifically, like for example, we were talking like when we were talking about that issue, we were like, well, you know, if every woman in the room would bring their body, like BYOB, we have like bring your own body type of stuff. Maybe just if one woman and one guy or one ally brings another one, that would already be very helpful. So for example, I'm sure there are a bunch of straight people in the room, like go to the QueerinAI workshop, and whether you're queer or you're straight or whatever, if you can bring someone else that is not from that underrepresented community, that would be great. But do you see something else that we could do? I mean, like Montreal, we're very lucky in a way to be like we're super diverse. Well, I'm sure like a lot of big cities are very diverse, but we're also very respectful. Like it's the Canadian way of being like respectful. Well, like our. So that's cool. But in other countries, maybe they're not that lucky to have this opportunity, unfortunately. Is there something that you tried or that you've seen that we can learn from it in countries where there is not this kind of movement currently?
So I think in other countries, it really depends on where you're at, right? All of these cultures can be very different, and their view on cultural differences or their view even on technology can vary a lot depending on the country, and that's I think a larger question that has to be answered and is starting to be talked about a lot within ethical AI development, right? Is one of the major tenets of ethical AI development is value alignment, right? And if you're developing artificial intelligence technology that really works for the global population, you have to do it in a way that it can fit every different kind of culture, every different kind of person, and not just from a data perspective and from a representation perspective, but also so that those communities and those individuals can trust that product, right? So that they can really feel connected to it and are willing to use it and adopt it very rapidly. So I think that is a much broader problem, and something that people really still need to try to solve, right? Is really understanding the values of that culture first, right? And being more open to those different cultures when you're talking to them, when you're doing collaborative work with them as well. So.
I think another thing that I want to focus more on in future years is to realize that the conversations on diversity and inclusion of different groups are in very different places and different countries and cultures, and that we should not expect everyone to be able to come to Canada and be able to understand these issues like Canadians do, and spend more time really trying to translate these and explain these things in ways that everyone can understand.
I definitely want to echo some of what Laura said. We're sort of emphasizing like the person-to-person interaction, which is we all have our own biases against women for sure. Like just the way we are brought up in society, it just means that we have stereotypes and biases. And I think as soon as you stop thinking that you're biased is when it's like everything's out the window, right? Then that's like when you stop improving. And I think just being sort of open to that and like just every day trying as hard as you can to be as open and sort of like being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and being welcoming to the person you see like standing in the corner or being marginalized or left out of conversations. I think that automatically is just going to make the culture of wherever you are so much better.
What impact do you think that those events could have outside of MIPS? Because now people have the chance to get together, to share their work, and to bring out those issues, but once everyone goes back to the normal life, what impact can still be?
I have the same question. So that's definitely my concern. So I think they can say a little bit more about sort of the purpose of their workshops, but for WiML, it's definitely, we also provide travel grants. This past year, we provided like $140,000 worth of travel grants to get people from all over the world to come here. And our goal is to sort of give more junior women the opportunity to present their work, to practice giving talks, to practice presenting posters, for a chance for them to network, to meet other women in the field, to meet mentors, to meet senior men in the field who can help them out with their research, and we still aren't doing that good of a job of sort of like what happens after that. I think that's a really hard problem. Is like that a lot of sort of these kinds of organizations and workshops face is what's next. So I don't have a good answer to that, other than I think one of the best things to do is be able to have like one-to-one ratios of mentor-mentee. If we can sort of like assign a long-term mentor to every single person who presents at our workshop or who wants help, who attends our workshop, that would be amazing. So that requires help from everyone.
For our organization specifically, we are going to be and are already doing some of our own research. So that's being broadened now to working in other countries as well. So one of the major research initiatives we'll be launching after January is actually being focused in Mexico, and we're looking at images and video in the media, and we're specifically going to be looking at the issue of colorism represented within media. So the LatinXinAI organization, which unfortunately could not be represented at this panel because their workshop was today, they showed within the Gender Shades research project, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it or not, Tim Ned and Joy Gulomami, amazing researchers, found that most of the commercially viable computer vision products that were out in the market could not actually recognize darker skinned individuals, and even more specifically, darker skinned women. And so the accuracy level, accuracy level of those products actually went down to about like 30%. As compared to, white men, for example, I think the accuracy of recognition was up to like 90%. And so through their research, they have actually improved the robustness of those machine learning models. And so we want to build upon that work specifically, and not just ensure that these machine learning models recognize individuals from different skin tones and facial features, but also that we're changing the narrative around, well, what is attractive and what is beautiful, right, in places like media, because oftentimes the data that is used is data that is publicly available and comes from places like news sources and from YouTube and so on. And so a really great way to change the availability of data that is available for research going forward is to change that narrative within the media and ensure that, okay, we're going to have better representation in these places that everyone is actually exposed to, and then that actually will also change the social narrative as well, and people will start accepting others. For us, especially as Latinx individuals, people of indigenous backgrounds as well, and of darker skin, that can be represented within those spaces.
Yeah, so a lot of queer people, like I as a queer undergraduate and budding researcher, I did not know any other queer people who were further along my career path than me until I was 23. So really just in the past year or so. It can be really discouraging to go to an event like this, or be in a department or an institution and feel like people like you aren't represented there, feel like you don't belong a lot, or that there aren't any examples of queer people who have been successful in the way you want to be successful. Kind of having a lack of role models. So I hope that a lot of the junior queer people on the event have met these senior queer people and been inspired. There are also a lot of queer people who can't be out because of the situations in their home country. I'd say 2/3 of queer people at this conference are not out. And I hope that they see this event and maybe they can even attend some of our events. Realize that it does get better, and that you care about
The Women in Machine Learning, it's been 13 years that it's existing, but yours is newer. So I was wondering, how do you see your respective organization evolving in the next years?
So, I'm a machine learning scientist. I love data. We put out several surveys every year to figure out what is the state of the queer AI machine learning community, what kinds of programs do they want. So I think we're going to be very driven by that. This is our first event, our first time getting to meet people and complete this round of surveys. So I think it will change a lot. One thing we are targeting is starting to offer travel scholarships like WiML, because even within the queer community, there are a lot of groups that are not represented very well, for example, transgender people, and we want to start bringing them into this space.
For our organization, our goal is not only to continue this specific workshop at NeurIPS annually, but also we've been asked now to host similar workshops at other large AI and machine learning conferences, including iQueer and ICML and so on. So we do want to be cautious not to become just full-time event or conference organizers, because we are researchers, of course. But like I said, we'll be doing our own research, and our longer-term goal, of course, would be to provide fellowships for individuals that are either finishing up their master's or their doctorates, and helping them to transition. And then later on, if those individuals want to join other companies or start their own companies, to kind of help them along that path as well. So for us, it's definitely a much broader view of really trying to create impact within the Latinx community, and to help really put them on the map as a culture and an ethnicity that is working in AI and is really well known for the work that they're doing in artificial intelligence already. And I think that that's something that hasn't been recognized, is that there are some really amazing major universities throughout South America, Central America, that have been doing artificial intelligence for a long time, that have not been recognized, and they really should be. And so we want to help everyone see that they are valuable and that they should be taken more seriously.
Well, I mean, I guess WiML is definitely like older and more mature now, but sort of like what I hope to see happen in the future is, well, we still get a lot of emails saying like, oh, I never knew about WiML. I only found out about it just now. I know that like your call for papers is now over. Like how can I participate? How can I participate in the future? And I would like to see that no longer be a thing. I would like to see that like, everyone knows that there is this sort of like women's organization in machine learning happening, and that they can always participate. I would like to see that the number of women who are submitting their work to WiML match the match or be fewer than the number of women who are submitting to NeurIPS and all the other major machine learning conferences. I would like to get to a point where like having women-only events at NeurIPS and other machine learning conferences gets as weird as like thinking about having men-only events. So.
I definitely hope that one day having a woman-only event is as weird as having a man-only. That's definitely a dream. Same for obviously the others as well. There is one thing that really annoyed me at NeurIPS actually. Well, there are a few, but there are also amazing stuff. One of the things that annoyed me a little bit is, there is a hunt for talent. Obviously, like your work and your brains are very valuable to a lot of companies. You choose to stay in university doing research or go to a company. When you go to NeurIPS, the amount of startups is very low. And diversity in the discussions is like a luxury in a way. Like if you're Google, yeah, you can afford like to actually like afford in the real sense of it to have projects for diversity and like lead, and even like they're not doing very well, but that's another story. Do you see advantages if you were to pitch? Okay, I work not with startups, so I'm going to annoy you with that. Like if you were to pitch to a young startup who unfortunately don't have the money to be at NeurIPS, on the advantage of diversity, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, this is so like there's a business perspective to diversity and inclusion. This isn't the reason I do it. I do it from an ethical perspective, but the business perspective is, AI is so hot right now. There's so much recruiting going on. Salaries are so high. If women don't feel welcome in your company, if people of color don't feel welcome in your company, that's just huge numbers of people that you're missing out on hiring. If you want to have the largest group, if you want to be able to hire well, then you need to make sure that everyone feels comfortable working at your company. It's a very simple thing.
I want to echo that diversity definitely drives innovation, and longer term will allow your product to be able to be used by many different groups of people. And most of the time, the culture of a company and organization is set by the founding members, right? And your first 10 to 20 employees. So if you don't start thinking about diversity from the ground, right, you're not going to have it. It's going to be much, much harder later on down the road to get other people interested in joining. Because if you have a team of 20 men that are all, one specific race or culture, or all went to the same school, or, all like ping pong, right? It's like, how can anyone else that is not that specific same group, why would they want to join? You know what I mean? If they're not going to feel like they can fit in and have a conversation with people around them who, if you really think about it, these are people you're spending, hours upon hours with every single day. They become like your family, right? This is where you live, this is where you work. You want to be able to enjoy that space and that atmosphere. So if you're going to bring other people in, you have to do it really, really early. And this was brought up at the Diversity and Inclusion Town Hall the other day. Inclusion is different from diversity, right? It's not just about inviting someone, I think, I forget her name, Susan Gomez? No, Susan, I forget her last name, Susan, who moderated the town hall the other day, she said, diversity is inviting someone to the party, inclusion is asking them to dance, right, or asking them, to drink punch with you, or so on, to really get them included within the activity so they feel represented, so, they feel valued in that space. So the same thing has to happen with startups as well. You can't just hire someone and then say, okay, great, we have a woman or we have a person of color. Like, how do you actually identify their culture and value them as an individual and what they bring to the table, in their daily life? I think that's really the key.
Okay, cool, fantastic. So we're not going to take any questions because we're. Thank you very, very, very much for your insights, and I would love to continue discussing for hours, and I have 20 other questions, but I think you probably have some questions. So first, a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much for your insights. And we'll take 2 questions, if you want. Yeah.
I would like to ask about how, with AI, we can do against the hate speeches, and the government has a policy on that, and do you have a collaboration with the government for prevent before or to detect the hate speeches and to prevent maybe after or some sanctions or so on? Do you have something like that in idea or collaboration? I would like to ask.
So our organization does not have any specific relationships with the government here in Montreal or the U.S. or any of these other countries yet, but it is something we would like to definitely do. And we did have Ed Felton, who I know spoke here. He was an invited speaker for NeurIPS as well. He actually spoke at our first LatinXinAI town hall that took place in January of this past year in San Francisco, and we were really grateful and fortunate to have him as well, and to learn a lot about the work that he has been doing within the White House on this idea of diversity and inclusion within artificial intelligence. So there's communication that's happening. Obviously, there is some representation that's taking place, but we have not been working with them as far as on that topic of hate speech or anything yet, but would be open to that as well.
Any other question? Yes. You make me run. It's good for my health. Thank you.
I know you guys discussed the importance of having. Hi, everyone. I know you guys discussed the importance of having associations and groups such as your ones here representing minorities. But you also mentioned how we can't have these groups, simply being the only representatives of these minority groups, and that diversity needs to start from bottom up. It needs to be an integral part of conferences and associations and companies. And so this is just for all of you. What are if you had complete power tomorrow morning, what are some concrete measures that you take as an individual so that happens at NeurIPS tomorrow?
Complete power.
So this isn't going to be a tomorrow thing. There are organizational problems in NeurIPS for diversity and inclusion, and there are cultural problems. And I can't tell people how to behave. That's the point. I would empower the diversity and inclusion chairs. I would bring the affinity groups into the organization and listen to them much more. I would pay a lot more attention to this survey and start working towards an action plan to address the major items on it. But this is just, I'm sure y'all will.
I think to echo what William said, this is just a problem that literally is ingrained in our society, in our cultures. That's not something we can just go poof and wish away tomorrow. We have to be like master of a lot more than just NeurIPS. We have to be like masters of history in the world and like everything. But I mean, it's really hard to mess with something like NeurIPS, right? I think you have to be really careful because it's such a delicate balance. You want to say that NeurIPS is something that is purely technical, where people are getting their papers accepted or able to go on a very sort of fair basis, and it's very difficult to say, I want to, it's very difficult to find ways of sort of pushing for more diversity and inclusion by also having everyone feel like they got a fair shot. I don't have a single overarching policy of how we can improve this. One of the ways that I've seen that I think is really great is sort of being able to sample, to make sure that the pool you're sampling from is diverse. So say that maybe in the future here it should be lottery-based, and that we should ensure that people who are entering this lottery to go to NeurIPS is as diverse as possible, which means, that we can sort of advertise this to women, to queer people, to Latinx people, to Black people, to all the minority groups, all the groups equally, as opposed to sort of this sort of very hierarchical structure that we have in society, where often the people at the top tend to be white and male.
So if I had absolute power, I would cancel the future contracts in Vancouver. Sorry, Vancouver's a great city. Sorry, Vancouver. And I would, go to the billion-dollar tech companies and be like, we need more money to make this happen for everyone, and schedule venues that can hold all the people who want to come. Because I think it's a very, very serious problem that not everyone who wants to attend can attend, both for those people and for the state of the field.
But it's also it's not just the quantity of people, it's also the diversity and being sure to be able to reach them. And also you heard about the whole Africa thing, where you had people denied their visas, and I wish we had some people from LatinXinAI, but that sucks. I'm from Morocco, and I'm lucky to live here, but it's not as easy to get Canada. So Vancouver, maybe they should do it in Nairobi, or I don't know. But it's two aspects. Not just people who want to come, it's the ability physically and monetary as well to be able to come.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. No, yeah, so as you were saying, LatinXinAI had 55% of their visas get rejected, which is insane. Can you imagine if 5% of NeurIPS would come, then they would have changed something by now, maybe. But yeah, and WiML had fewer, but we had about 20% of our visas get rejected. One of our organizers, so there are 5 organizers, so 20% of the organizers got their visas rejected. She wasn't able to make it and had to live stream the workshop that she put so many hours into. And she finally only was able to show up yesterday. So we were really glad to see her. But yeah, that's soft.
So I want to repeat something that Timnit from LatinXinAI actually said at the town hall, which is if we had ultimate power, long-term goal, that would be self-destruction, right? That our workshops would not have to exist, that we would have enough representation within these spaces that these affinity groups are no longer needed. So that, of course, would be the ideal situation. And also, yes, we not only should set up these spaces so that they can accommodate diversity as a whole and anyone who wants to attend, but also that they take place in other countries and that they celebrate those other cultures. So, for example, why isn't this event taking place in Africa? Why isn't it taking place in South America? With as much recognition, right? Because there are AI and machine learning conferences happening there. It's not like, no one's ever thought about creating a machine learning conference in those spaces. RIA just took place in Mexico. It was a very large machine learning conference, but again, did not receive the same type of recognition as this conference has received here, has been receiving for a really long time. So if these groups could collaborate, if NeurIPS and could collaborate with other organizers in other countries to host this event in other places, that would be ideal, honestly.
Any other question? we talked about ethics, and I see some people from Montreal ethics. I'm just saying. I should run actually. I eat too much outside these days.
So it's more of a comment and an announcement. So my comment is thank you. I think it's amazing that you're doing this work because we're all really busy, scientists, students, engineers, whatever, and it's really hard to do anything about it, right? And so I think efforts like the ones you're doing are really needed, and so I just want to thank you, and I think it's amazing that you're doing it, because it's not going to happen by itself. And the second comment leads to my announcement, and it's that I do think that each of us can contribute to this in our own companies, in our own universities, in whatever initiatives we're involved in. And some Colombians in my company, we're a startup, we just announced a fellowship for PhD students. It's called Diversity in AI for Good, and it's a 3 to 6 month fellowship. So please apply. The company's data miner. We work with non-for-profits. We have a bunch of projects, and we want as many applicants as possible. And again, it's an initiative that we want to move forward. Data miner, and see me if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question or no questions? No questions? No questions? No questions. Okay. If you don't have any more questions, I want to just maybe take a few minutes. Who here was actually at NeurIPS? Sorry? Who was actually during the week at NeurIPS? Well, you probably were. Like I see your badge. Can you keep your hands up? Okay. So everybody else who hasn't raised their hands, I'm sure you're either passionate or aspiring maybe to learn more about AI, etc. So we'll have the cocktail later, and I would invite the ones who raised their hands to hopefully talk with the people who haven't raised their hands. I should have done that at the beginning, and I suck, and I'm sorry. But who is from Montreal? Montreal. That's a very good question. No one would ask that. Is it from Montreal or living in Montreal? I like this question. No, living currently in Montreal. That's a problem with the scientists. Okay. The parameters of the question were wrong. Can you keep raising your hands? Sorry, can you keep, again, sorry, Montreal people who spend more than 5 months a year in Montreal? Okay, good. Well, I guess the others are not from Montreal. But who's not living in Canada at all? Not in Canada? Not in Canada? Okay. Cool. So thank you very much for our international guests to be here. Thanks for taking the time to come visit beautiful Montreal. So I hope that during the cocktail, again, same point. So ideally, you talk with people who are not from your country, etc., etc. The reason also, and I think, to go back to the point that you were highlighting a couple of times throughout the discussion, is it's also about building a network of allies, of mentors, of supports, and inspiring people or make them aspire to be better. Breaking those biases, every day in my case, I discover new bias I have, almost. And sometimes it's conscious, unconscious, etc. And sometimes you say shitty words, and you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't. So hopefully getting better. But it's also about getting people to mingle among themselves. And I'm really, that's why we did tickets for Canada, Montreal, blah blah. And I hope that you'll actually take the time. It's already 7:10. We had a few things that we wanted to do, but we're not going to do them just because we had too much of a good time with our guests. But I would love to know, and maybe we'll do it during the cocktail, but I would love to know for the people who went to NeurIPS, what a big highlight of NeurIPS that you had, a good thing, and something that you would love to see improve. We'll probably do some mini interviews, so if you want to come to me or someone on our team to just get to know that a little bit better, because it's also a learning that we want to do as an organization. Montreal Tech, we've been working with the startups and researchers, etc., for the last 9 years, but also Marina with the Women in Machine Learning and Data Science, you're going to launch an amazing organization here in Montreal, and I hope that we can also learn from that all together. I don't know if you wanted to add something. No? Okay. It's the guy who closes the thing. Okay, whatever. I'm just kidding.
Maybe just that for people that are in Montreal, we're going to do a lot of women in machine learning and data science events, and we were inspired by the women in machine learning workshop, and it's one of the actions that we thought that could be done throughout the year to build a community locally in many cities, so that we keep the conversation going and build something permanent.
Well, do you want to say something?
I just want to say, please attend our workshop tomorrow, because I know a lot of workshops have already happened, but we have all day at the convention center. And even if you did not register for NeurIPS, you can still attend our workshop. So there is a free registration for it that's separate. If the Eventbrite closes before you get to it, we'll be doing registrations at the table as well. So please come so you can still feel like you're part of the NeurIPS. You get to see the convention center. And we'll have oral presenters and poster presenters throughout the day, a research mentoring hour, photos, video, live streaming, so on. So do take that opportunity to join us. We would really love to have you, get involved with our researchers. So thank you.
And same for QueerinAI, I think. Is it at the convention center as well?
So we're in the Intercontinental Montreal, across the street from the convention center, the Bernhardt room, and we're going from 8 a.m. to noon. There's a poster session from 11 a.m. to noon, which will be cool, and a really good panel from 10 to 11. I highly recommend it.
Is there a highlight for tomorrow? I'm just like getting to know, because maybe I'll get drunk tonight and someone else, and then like I have to wake up at 8 a.m.
Yeah, so our keynote is taking place at 8 in the morning. I know it's super early.
So the main thing is at 8. So if you go out, stay out up until 7 and go to the conference.
If you don't make it first thing in the morning, I highly encourage at the very least try to come to our poster sessions. Our oral presentations, of course, are all going to be amazing, but all of our oral presenters and our poster presenters will be there with posters, and that's the time that we have for them to answer questions. So that's going to take place between 11 and 2. So at 11, we have posters as well as a research mentoring hour, where you can also communicate with our sponsors and get to know all of our individual researchers. And then that goes through lunch until 2 p.m. And then our oral presentations will begin again. We also have a networking and social hour that takes place at the Tavern Midway directly after our workshop. But definitely join us during the workshop, room 520 in the convention center.
We'll send an email. I know not everybody who registered. We had like 300 registration for tonight. We released some ticket late because we didn't know if we would have we were supposed to have just half the room, so it sucks sometimes, but we were late. Whatever, it happens. Next time we'll get everyone. We will have more sponsors. Speaking of sponsors, thank you so much for Algolux again. There will be a video that we'll share later. Well, not later, like in a couple minutes at the cocktail place. We have our volunteers who are going to host the bar and the food and stuff, and we have some empanadas that the friend of Marina made with love and stuff like that. So he's here. Oh, thank you so much for the empanadas that I haven't tasted yet. So yeah, no, let's after we taste them. I'm kidding. But yeah, we'll have the video of Algolux. Thank you so much, and I want to highlight it even more, because yes, you're a well-funded startup and you're doing well, but you're a startup, and that means the world to us when we see a startup supporting those initiatives. And for me, like one of the comments I had against NeurIPS is that so expensive for startups to showcase that. I know it's like 80 grand or something like that. We can't pay that. So hopefully Montreal.AI Week will become a yearly thing, and we won't need NeurIPS to host amazing people from across the world. Hopefully not in Montreal only. Morocco AI. Okay. Thanks a lot for Desjardins. I work at Desjardins Lab as well, so I love Desjardins. Anyway, but thank you Desjardins for supporting it as well. That's where thank you. No, but thank you to my team actually, who are supporting that and for giving the space out and for cleaning the room afterwards. And I would like to thank also before going for the drinks part. But thanks for Women and Gradient.ai. It's a company, startup here in Montreal, and Marina is the co-founder. They're a startup, but they're so passionate. But they're building their company, and at the same time, she's building with other people the women in machine learning here in Montreal. So thanks to your team and taking the time to do that, because it's easier when you work at Facebook or at Desjardins to say I'm going to take 15 or 20 hours a week up to do volunteering work. it's harder when you're building your own startup and taking that time. So thanks a lot, Marina and your team. Thanks also to our Montreal.AI team. I think, raise your hand if you're here in the room, like they are in the bar. Okay, the others are, but thank you so much like for all the volunteering work that we do all year long. I think we should go for drinks now.
Yes.
Good. Thank you so much again. Thank you for going to take a picture at the cocktail